Imagine walking into a massive electronics store. Bright lights, endless gadgets, rows of TVs glowing like a wall of the future. And somehow, that place feels unstoppable, like it will always be there. But what if I told you that this giant once stood on the edge of collapse, closer to disappearing than anyone could have imagined? This is the story of Best Buy, a company that rose to dominate, stumbled hard, and somehow fought its way back when the world had already started writing its obituary. It all begins in 1966, long before smartphones, streaming, or even personal computers were part of everyday life. A man named Richard M Schulze opened a small audio store in Minnesota called Sound of Music. And no, it was not the global empire we know today. It was just a modest shop selling stereo equipment, speakers, and record players, catering to music lovers who wanted better sound in their homes. Simple idea, right? But what made it different was the focus on customer experience. Schulze believed that people should not just buy products, they should understand them, interact with them, feel confident about what they were taking home. For years, the business grew steadily. Nothing explosive, just consistent progress, until one unexpected moment changed everything. In 1981, a tornado hit one of their largest stores, destroying inventory and leaving chaos behind. Now, most businesses would see that as a disaster, maybe even the end. But Schulze saw something else: opportunity. He decided to hold a massive clearance sale to get rid of damaged goods, advertising it as a Best Buy event. Customers flooded in, drawn by the deals. The energy was electric, and this accidental experiment sparked a new direction. That moment gave birth to a new identity. In 1983, Sound of Music officially rebranded as Best Buy. And with that came a bold shift in strategy. Instead of small specialty stores, they started building large warehouse-style locations, packed with products, self-service, lower prices, and a sense of discovery. It was almost like a playground for tech enthusiasts before that concept even existed. And this is where things started to take off. Throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, Best Buy rode the wave of consumer electronics growth. TVs were getting bigger. Computers were becoming household essentials. CDs were replacing cassettes, and people wanted it all. Best Buy positioned itself perfectly, not just as a retailer, but as a destination, a place where you could walk in and explore technology, compare options, and walk out feeling like you made the right choice. Then came one of their smartest moves: the introduction of the superstore format, big open layouts, wide aisles, products you could touch and test. It was different from the cramped, commission-driven stores of the past, and customers loved it. Sales exploded, expansion followed, and by the early 2000s, Best Buy was everywhere, dominating the electronics retail space in the United States and beyond. They even created specialized departments like Geek Squad, offering tech support and installation services, which added a layer of trust and convenience. It was not just about selling gadgets anymore. It was about helping people use them, and that built loyalty. At this point, Best Buy seemed unstoppable. They were outperforming competitors, expanding internationally, and becoming a household name. But as history often shows, success can sometimes plant the seeds of future problems. Because while Best Buy was celebrating its dominance, a quiet revolution was happening in the background. The internet was changing everything. At first, online shopping seemed like just another channel, not a threat. But then companies like Amazon began to grow rapidly, offering lower prices, convenience, and something Best Buy could not easily match: shopping from your couch. And this is where everything changed. Customers started using Best Buy stores as showrooms. They would walk in, test products, talk to staff, and then go home and buy the same item online for cheaper. Sometimes even while still standing inside the store. This phenomenon became known as showrooming, and it was devastating. Sales started to decline, profits shrank, and suddenly, the giant did not look so invincible anymore, but Things did not stay that way. They got worse. By the early 2010s, Best Buy was in serious trouble. Leadership issues, declining revenue, and a rapidly changing market created a perfect storm. Their stock price plummeted, and analysts began predicting the company's downfall. Some even called it the next Blockbuster, a once powerful brand unable to adapt, and then came controversy. In 2012, then CEO Brian Dunn resigned amid personal misconduct allegations, adding instability at the worst possible time. Confidence in the company dropped even further, and it felt like the final blow. So here's the question. How does a company come back from that? When customers are leaving, competition is stronger than ever, and trust is fading. What happened next was shocking. Instead of giving up, Best Buy decided to fight back, and they brought in a new leader, Hubert Joly, a man who would lead one of the most surprising corporate turnarounds in recent history. Joly did not come from a traditional retail background, and maybe that was exactly what Best Buy needed, someone who could see things differently. His approach was simple, yet bold. Focus on the customer, empower employees, and stop trying to beat online competitors at their own game. Instead, use Best Buy's physical stores as an advantage. One of his first major moves was price matching. If customers could find a product cheaper online, Best Buy would match it. This directly addressed the showrooming problem and gave people a reason to actually buy in store. Then he invested heavily in improving the in-store experience, better trained staff, more interactive displays, and partnerships with major brands like Apple and Samsung, creating mini stores within stores. This made Best Buy locations feel fresh, engaging, and worth visiting. He also doubled down on services, expanding Geek Squad and focusing on installation, repairs, and support, things that online retailers struggled to provide. This was a smart move because it shifted the conversation from just price to value. And slowly, things started to turn around. Sales stabilized, then grew. Profits returned, and perhaps most importantly, customer trust came back. People began to see Best Buy not as a dying retailer, but as a company that understood their needs. It was not an overnight miracle. It took years of disciplined execution, but by the mid-2010s, Best Buy had done something few believed possible. It had reinvented itself in the age of e-commerce, but the story does not end there. Because just when things seemed stable again, another challenge emerged. The rapid evolution of technology itself. Streaming services reduced demand for physical media. Smartphones changed how people consumed electronics, and new competitors kept entering the market. The landscape was constantly shifting. And then came a global event no one could ignore: the COVID-19 pandemic. Retail stores around the world were forced to close or operate under strict limitations, and once again Best Buy had to adapt quickly. They leaned heavily into online sales, curbside pickup, and contactless services, using the infrastructure they had built during their turnaround. Interestingly, their combination of physical stores and online capabilities turned into a strength, not a weakness. They were able to fulfill orders quickly, provide support, and keep serving customers during a difficult time. So where does Best Buy stand today? It is no longer just a retailer. It is a hybrid model, blending online convenience with physical experience, offering products, services, and solutions. They continue to evolve, exploring areas like smart home technology, health tech, and subscription services. But the question remains, can they keep it up? Because the world is not slowing down. Technology keeps advancing, consumer expectations keep rising, and competition is always just one click away. There is something fascinating about this story. It is not just about selling electronics. It is about adaptation, about recognizing when the world is changing and having the courage to change with it. Best Buy could have easily become another cautionary tale, another name people remember with a sense of nostalgia. But instead, it chose to fight, to rethink, and to rebuild. And maybe that is the real lesson here. Success is not permanent, and failure is not always the end. sometimes it is just the beginning of something different. So next time you walk into a Best Buy store or browse their website, you might see more than just gadgets and price tags. You might see a company that survived when many thought it would not. But what do you think? Was Best Buy's comeback truly impressive? Or is it just a temporary win in a much bigger battle? Do you think they can continue to compete in a world dominated by online giants? Or will history repeat itself in a new way? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear what you think.